Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, then you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight. We're going to wait about 10 more minutes for other people to join and come from the Rickard lecture this evening. So thank you so much for joining. All right. Hey, everyone. Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to introduce our panelists tonight. For those who do not know, I'm Sydney Julie Smith, the president of Econ Club here at Oglethorpe. But let's go ahead and get started. So our panelists this afternoon, if we could have them introduce themselves, their title, kind of where they are right now, and how they relate to the panel. And then
Sydney, we have a hard time. It's your voice is echoing to us. It's like it's not that I don't know what to say.
Oh no.
Or it's coming from me, maybe I don't know.
I think we might have just lost Dr. Deneau.
I can hear you okay.
I'm here now. Sorry, it's me the
Okay.
problem. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So yes, name and title, kind of where you are now, how you relate to this panel. And if we could go ahead and start with Grace.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Ferradino. I am a first-year law student currently at the University of Minnesota Law School. I got connected with the panel. I graduated from the University of Oregon in 2024 with my bachelor's in economics and knew Dr. Wood there. And so I'm excited to be here today and kind of talk about my experiences.
Awesome. And then if we could go Dr. Deneau next.
It's me. Hi, this is Gilad Dino. I'm professor of economics at Valdosta State University. I have a PhD in economics and minor in statistics from North Carolina State. I completed my PhD in 2021 and I started working in Valdosta State since 2002. It's a long time. And I'm originally from Turkey, and that's it.
Awesome. And then Anne.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne. I'm a second-year law student at University of Oregon School of Law. I graduated from my undergrad same year as Grace with a bachelor's degree in economics, and we founded the Women in Economics Club at University of Oregon together. So that's why I was pulled for this panel, and I'm really excited to speak with you all.
And then last but not least, Dr. Jahan.
Hi, my name is Murshid Jahan. I'm faculty at Valdosta State University. I'm also the faculty advisor for Women in Business here in VSU. I'm a microeconomist, and I did my PhD from Northern Illinois. Yeah, that's all.
Awesome. And then another question for everyone is what drew you to economics? And then we can just go reverse order.
That's me, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of, from the family and also my interest for data and mathematics. So I have a couple of members who are also econ graduates, so that kind of influenced me. When I started in my undergrad, I know that I like to, work with data, and I like the financial behavior and other stuff that are related to economics. So later I just thought doing a PhD would be nice. After working for 3 years with International Finance Corporation, IMF, IFC under World Bank Group. So then I decided to come for my PhD, no, for my master's, and then I did my PhD. It's kind of like, the interest grew gradually. It's not like one day I just thought about it. It's just gradually, I think, that's it. Like it just happened like gradually. Yeah.
I took an AP Econ class in high school and I really liked it. And then I went to undergrad and I was actually initially a global studies major, but I found that the only class that I was excited to take was the econ elective for the global studies major. So I thought, well, if I'm only really excited about econ, I might as well completely switch my major around. And I found that it's been like an incredibly useful degree and I feel like I made a good choice and learned a lot.
I think my story is very similar to Mouchette. And I'm also very much in love with math. So I have very strong math skill. And I also was always interested in the macro policies because I'm coming from, the developing nation that really we grow up with the IMF and the effect of IMF on the Turkish economy. So I knew all about it. And that's maybe that triggered my the interest. So I intentionally entered in the university that is the economics is in-house in the political science faculty. And then that I had really strong there, give you very strong, macro background. And I said, I know I would love to pursue more. So, and I had the opportunity to get a scholarship to do my PhD in US, and that's where I'm at.
I personally kind of fell into economics. I just took an intro to econ course kind of on a whim just to fulfill a general credit and wound up just really loving it. For the first time, I kind of felt like I had taken a course that had some broader applicability to the world. I could actually see how it fit in. And it also was going to prepare me well for law school with all of the analysis and just critical thinking. But I also knew if I changed my mind or law school didn't pan out for some reason, I would have a lot of great career opportunities with econ, and just the skills that you develop with it is something that's sought after in a lot of different spaces.
Awesome. So my next question is for Dr. Jahan and Dr. Deneau, but what areas of economics do you believe need more female voices or perspectives?
I'm going to have Mushed answer it first.
So in
Because
general,
her research interest, it really lines on with the question.
I would say in general, like, there are less female economists, you know. So we need more female to study economics in general. And in every offices, like if it's like IMF or World Bank, wherever you go, they're like male dominance. We have less economists. So I don't know how females picks their majors, but definitely, there are some how to say it, like preconception that males are more good with numbers than females. Maybe that's one of the reason. In general, like in STEM programs, we have less female enrollment in any university, I guess. Um, the females we have in economics are also mostly international. So they come from, they're all exported from outside. So I think we need to encourage more female students, and we need to build up that confidence and among our students that it's not something that you cannot do, and it has a very good future. And also, we need to highlight that where you can go with this degree. So economics is really like vast. If I have to explain to students like what are you going to do with your econ degree, I mean, how I can say, right? Because there are lots of different paths you can go with this. Somehow, we are not explaining that very well, and we are not recruiting a lot of female students in economics in general, and all the process of in all the process of like economic activities that we have in the international level as well. If you see corporate CEOs, there are less number of female CEOs. So it's been a topic for a long time why females are not involved in these positions and not interested in studying STEM programs specifically, like in economics, the number is really low. So I don't know, that can be a research topic.
I mean, I do echo with what Moshe said. I mean, when you look at the Federal Reserve and the Board of Federal Reserve or Chairman of the Federal Reserve, they're all male. And anytime they're making all the policy, the world, as he said, the World Bank, they're really male dominant area. I mean, basically, but the thing I think is like there's less interest to major in economics in the United States than I think rest of the world. Because I do go to Europe and take my students for study abroad, and I take, I would go to partner schools, and I see so many students that female and male and majoring economics is like, and here is the perception is a little bit different. And as she said, it's like they said, what am I going to do with economics? What is economics? So I think they're more like they're pessimistic about finding a job. That's maybe one of the disadvantage of not having it enough, the interest. I don't know what to do.
Awesome.
That's it.
And for my next question, how has economics shaped your views in law school? I know Grace touched on this a little bit, so this is for Grace and Anne.
One thing that I can say is I thought I wanted to go to law school like very early on, but the idea of what kind of law I wanted to practice totally shifted as I progressed through my econ degree. And I now am really focusing on being able to take the background that I have in econ and apply it in the legal context. So looking at areas like antitrust law or regulatory and compliance for things like banking institutions. And so I think for me, of course, there's the fundamental skills of econ that I kind of touched on, like the analysis and the critical thinking that comes into play with law school. But where I find that it has kind of directed me the most is actually with what kind of law I want to practice and being able to bridge that background in econ with the legal practice.
Yeah, I would just add a little bit on what Grace said about it developing, like studying econ really does develop your problem solving skills and your analytical thinking skills. And I found that that helped me a lot in 1L. And or that's what the first year of law school is called. And also, like sometimes in class, they'll just bring up like economic concepts. Like I remember in contracts, we talked about Coase theorem, efficient breach of contract is a big thing that you spend time on. And in my year, I think we had 4 economics majors. And so I just had a big leg up on everyone else when we would talk about these topics. And then on the final exam, there was a question about Coase theorem. And I'm like, oh, like I know this.
And then same vein for career-wise, but Dr. Deneau and Dr. Jahan, how did you choose to become a professor?
That's a great question. Of course, I'm going to start, first. So when I got my degree from North Carolina State. It's not a written rule, but before you graduate, before you get your, degree from North Carolina State, all the PhD students are supposed to teach 1 or 2 undergraduate courses, and that's kind of mandatory. It's not written rule, but that's just a tradition. I remember they put me in the principle of microeconomics. I still remember the first day that I stood in that classroom. I was so afraid of teaching that because it's just so scary, like all the eyes looking at you. But that really changed the way I, look at pursue my career. I always want to be, working for the World Bank or IMF or, Federal Reserve. And I never want to be a teach. But that changed my whole perspective. And then I just love teaching. And I realized how much I love teaching. And I can actually contribute someone's life or change someone's life. So that was a turning point for me. And I said, I will be academia. And I do enjoy doing research, but teaching is very important for me as well.
Well, for me, so before coming to United States, I was working with IFC International Finance Corporation, and it was like it was good, and I liked my job, but throughout the day, it was like meetings after meetings and talking to private, public sector people and trying to solve, problems through, the right kind of policy and all that. So then my job actually demanded a PhD in economics. So I start thinking about having a PhD, but before that, I wanted to have a master's. So I got admission and funding from Illinois State University, and I came to the United States in 2013. And then after my master's, I went back home and I taught in a private university for like one semester. And then I realized that I'm not bad in explaining stuff and students likes me. So when I come back for my PhD, I started teaching after my qualifying exam. When I passed the qualifying and start on my research, so they give me classes. And then I start teaching. And at the beginning, I was hesitant because I'm international. I have an accent, and how these students can accept me. But it was okay. And then by the time I was graduating, I was thinking about like applying to industry positions and academic positions. And then I realized that academic positions will give me the flexibility to do my own research, and I will be my boss. I don't have to report anyone other than myself. So that's one of the things that I like about my job. And a lots of time, it's just the transformation of knowledge from me to my students. I enjoy that very much. I enjoyed it when I received that knowledge from someone, and I also enjoy, giving it to someone, whatever, how much I know. So that's one of the reason. And also like, the time hasn't stopped. I can go another type of career anytime, but still enjoying teaching. So yeah.
Awesome. And then both of y'all touched on research. Would you be willing to share a little bit more about your areas of interest and your research in general?
I could have Mushed start.
Okay. So like everyone else, when I come to United States, I was interested in macroeconomics. I thought I will do development economics research work, and I will work to eliminate poverty from the world, and I will do stuff that no one ever did, and I'll make a difference. And then I got introduced to microeconomic data, survey data, and then as a research assistant to a professor, I just enjoyed working with those data sets that I'd never been exposed before when I was back in home. So that actually, transformed me into a microeconomist. So after that, when I, was preparing for my qualifying exam, I was more interested in solving micro problem than macro, even though I was thinking I will fail in my macro qualifying, but I didn't. So, but in micro, like my professors were also like telling me that I'm good at micro, and later I become the teaching assistant for PhD micro courses. So, and I just start, looking at the different national level data set in the United States, and there are some of them are really good and have really important policy related question to answer from. So I started working on national longitudinal data set, and my research area kind of pivoted towards labor economics. So I work with topic like tenure, job satisfaction, demographic area like females, paid maternity leave, all these type of thing, and also some are in public health related issues. So yeah, I deal with micro data sets and micro level policy research topics. Yes.
So my research started with, looking at the economic growth. So I mean, of course, since I'm coming from developing country, so very much we're very interested in all this economic development issues, and that was in back of my head. I said, I'm going to do something related to that. So when I was doing my PhD, and I had the opportunity to work on that issue. So I was looking at economic growth and factors, how the countries grow. When you look at the country, some is growing much faster than other, and questions why and how. And so there are so many studies look at all this, all the different country level. And I said, we can apply the same stuff. Since I'm United States, I can look at this issue at the state level, right? So or county level. So that's basically my dissertation is looked at the factor affecting economic growth, and we use state of North Carolina. And if you look at state of North Carolina, I think it was there's so many counties, and they have 100 counties. So each one of them think as a country, and see one of them is much richer than the other one. So questions why. So that's basically my research. That's what my specialty is on that area. But since I am, again, from my background, and because of, being in Turkey, we were just very much interested in looking at all the effect of exchange rate, effect of different, the policies on the economy. So I very much look at all the, the international concept, how those affect the economy. That's what I do.
Awesome. And then for Grace and Anne, what is your definition of success and how has it changed throughout your academic career?
I can start. So before law school, I really tied success to getting a specific job, like my dream job. And then I tried out a summer position that was in a similar practice area. And I also tried out a clinic at my school. And I found that the work that I enjoyed was different than the work that I thought I would enjoy coming into law school. And I also realized that the environment I'm working in matters just as much as the work that I'm doing. And so the job that I'm taking this summer, I ended up choosing because I like the people. And so now I would say success for me looks less like a specific job and more like personal happiness and sustainability.
My idea of success has changed a lot just in the past 6 months as I did start law school. And I'm sure that this experience that I've had is very similar for other people who have gone through professional degree programs and that sort of thing. But it truly is a different level of challenge and just kind of reworks the way you think and presents so many new hurdles as you're, starting a professional degree program. And so I have faced a lot of difficulties that are unlike anything I ever did with my academics in undergrad. And so my idea of success at this point is less focused on whatever my end goal is, getting a job or getting the certain grade, and more about how I handle each specific bump in the road per se, and my ability to keep persevering and kind of keep on the course that I'm on, even when there are going to be those, because they can throw you off really easily. But I think it's helpful to kind of orient your success as well around the way that you react to those challenges and the way that you keep moving.
Love that. And then in a similar vein, how have you built confidence and resiliency over the course of your career for Dr. Deneau and Dr. Jahan?
Okay, so I think confidence comes from knowledge. If you know something, you are confident. For me, if I know about something, I will be like, very confident talking about that. But if I don't know, you can tell from the body language, like, that this person doesn't know much about this. But I believe that confidence comes with knowledge, and people do not born with confidence. You have to nurture it in yourself. So if someone thinks that, okay, I am not confident, it's not the how to say the final result. You can work on your confidence level, and at some point you will achieve some level of confidence. And I personally would always like, before doing any project or anything, I need to know. And as my knowledge grow in that field, my confidence of presenting or sharing information with others also grow. So I would truly say that it's you need to harvest that thing in yourself if you want to be confident person. It's nothing someone born with. It's we have to nurture that characteristics in ourselves. And yeah, so anyone can become confident. I'm not saying that I'm confident all the time, but I can improve it with the information and knowledge I gather. And after that, it just comes naturally. You don't have to pretend that you are confident or you are comfortable. It just the byproduct of what you are doing if you know what you are doing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the same thing. I think the confidence is, yeah, I mean, I remember when I started, I don't think you had that much confidence. I mean, you know the material, but you don't really have that confidence yet. I think that over the year, and then you build the confidence because you see that you are you're successful. What you're doing is affecting somebody's life, and you're able to make impact on the students. That give you confidence. And all the stuff that your product is, like, you're doing a research and that's acknowledged, and you're doing teaching that has been acknowledged. And then that over the year, that's knowledge, and then success or acknowledgement is basic, or getting achieved, and give you that confidence. So over the year, I think you build the confidence just being successful. That's what it is, I guess.
Um, and then this is specifically for Dr. Jahan, but how does diversity and women influence economic research, policymaking, and business decisions?
So if I understood your question, then it's like how diversity influence the policy making. So if I mean, I work with data and policies for underrepresented group most of the time, specifically like female in the workforce. We do have almost 50% females, but our policies are not female friendly. In the United States, we do not have a national paid maternity leave policy yet. And the much we have to support our female employees is not enough. And what happened, they just, get out of the labor force at some point, right? And also in the hierarchy, they are at the lower, at less successful as compared to their male counterpart, because we do not have policies, we don't have any sorts of facilities to support our female employees or female workers, right? So if we consider that since our half of the population, half of the workforce is female, if we think about them making it more suitable and long lasting and successful career for females, we need to come up with policies that supports them, like childcare, then maternity leave, then just FMLA, like taking care of a family member who's in need. These are more relevant for female than male, right? So we are going into that direction, but still there's a lot of thing that we need to consider when we come up with the policies that are related to the labor market. Ultimately it's a capitalist society. Wherever there is higher return, people will do that, and that's where we are lacking to have female-friendly policies, because we don't want it to backfire so that people hesitate to hire any female employee. So given all these circumstances, all these drawbacks, we have to come up with something that is not kind of discriminatory, but at the same time will help us to to sustain in our workforce and keep working. Um, Females with higher skill level, higher degree are different than those who are a part-time worker and not in a big tech company. They do not get to have all the benefits or all the support they actually need. So we really need to think about that section of our society, how we can come up with policies that will support them to flourish in their career, and then moving forward uh, with some really good skills, and that also improves the living standard, life expectancy, all everything. So you cannot ignore half of your population and flourish in economy. So I think that there is a lot to work on that. Not only female, I would say that recently I'm doing a research on foster care, extended foster care also. Those are like less fortunate, underprivileged group of our society. We need to take care of that, because capital economy, what they do, you will get the return according to what you contribute, but not everyone is capable to contribute equally, right? In that case, we have to have policies to bring that group of our society into the mainstream line, and secure some of the basic needs. So yeah, I don't think we are still kind of achieved what we want to achieve through policy making at the highest level.
That was so interesting. And then for Anne and Grace, I know you started the Women in Economics Club at Oregon, and I was just wondering if you had a little bit more background on that and what advice you would give to other students who wanted to start an organization or a similar club.
So at our school at University of Oregon, the female to male ratio in the econ department was about a 20-80 split. And so there was just very few of us in the major. And we did have an economics club. And one of Anne and I's first experiences going to that, we went to a panel, or not a panel, sorry, like a social mixer, which was an opportunity to just talk with professors and get to know other students. And in that environment, we realized a couple of things that wound up being sort of pervasive throughout our experience, which was that space wasn't really created for us to be able to interact with, our peers and our professors in the same way. Our thoughts and the things that we had to say were not given the same weight, or were not heard the same way either. And so we went through our whole first year of college kind of thinking about how we fit into the major, and what that experience was like for us. And then it was actually Anne's idea to start the Women in Economics Club. And so I'll let her kind of take over from there. But
Yeah, so once we decided that we wanted to start the club, the first thing we did was send out basically basically a Canvas announcement to the entire were interested in. And there was also a Google form that people could fill out if they were interested, and also with ideas for what they were looking for. Because I think we had this idea where we could see that there was a need for community and that there wasn't really a space for women in the major, but we didn't know like exactly what people were looking for. Was it professional development? Was it more social? Was it like advocacy for change within the department? And we got a mix of responses. And we also got somebody responding saying they knew more about like the processes of forming an organization with our school. And so they were able to join the exec board with us and help us out through the year. So I would definitely advise, if you're interested in starting an organization, like sending out some sort of survey to see if there's interest and also what people are looking for. And then you can also pick up people to help you. I remember our first meeting, we did this like get to know you bingo, and then what it ended up just turning into like people just like talking to each other. And it like made me realize, okay, what people want is like a space to find community and be social. And so even if you come in with a certain idea of like what a meeting or what the club is going to look like, you have to be adaptable for what the need is in the community.
Yeah, I would just say, like if that space that you're looking for doesn't exist, like don't be afraid to make that for yourself. And I think Anne and I also didn't necessarily know what we were doing or have like all of this great experience with starting a school organization and gaining traction and all of that. But I think what helped us out the most was just the fact that we just went for it. And, we didn't wait till we felt ready. We just knew that this was something we wanted to do. And we did a lot of learning on the fly, but everybody kind of came together and helped made that club what we all needed it to be. So
Awesome. And then my last question for everybody is, what advice would you give to others entering economics and all of the things that come with it? And then we can start with Anne.
Yeah, I would say from my perception of the job field, coming out of undergrad, you'll be really competitive if you have prior research experience. So looking for like research opportunities while you're still in undergrad. And a great way to find those is to go to your professor's office hours and ask them about their research. I think one thing I wish I had done more as an undergrad was utilizing those office hours, even if you feel like you don't necessarily have questions about the material. Like maybe you'll be discussing something and you'll come up with a question. And economics is a really useful degree. I find that like when I'm in job interviews, people sometimes don't have an entire idea of what the field is or like what it means to have a bachelor's degree in economics. And you can use that to your advantage because you have like, depending on your program, you probably have like computer science knowledge, business knowledge, finance knowledge, math knowledge. And so you're bringing in a lot of strengths that, and then it becomes like easier to market yourself.
And then Dr. Johan.
But I would say that it's just very marketable degree. Like, it's not like very narrow. You can, and in econ major can do a lot of, tasks that different majors can also do. But if you have econ degree, then there are like lots of positions there to recruit. So you just have a broader, places to apply. So that's one of the thing. The other thing is like it actually improve and develop your critical thinking. That skill, I don't know, like how much the other discipline inculcate in students, but I think economics does it really good. So we also kind of deal with human behavioral aspect. So it actually help you to solve some of your personal problems also. So I think it has like professional and personal both kind of benefits. So yeah, I would say it's very marketable.
And then Grace.
I would say something that I learned and that I've definitely had conversations with students who are part of our Women in Econ Club at Oregon, is just that you really are a lot more capable of doing this than you think you are. Econ kind of seems like a guarded field, and especially with the emphasis on things like math. I personally was never somebody who thought of myself as being math inclined, and that was a huge hesitancy of mine going into the econ degree program, and have had to encourage other women to not let that same hesitancy regarding the analytical skills and the math focus to prevent them from studying that major. And I think we just tend to discount ourselves more, or think that we have to come into a space with a higher level of knowledge or experience compared to our male counterparts at times. And so just reminding yourself that you are capable of doing this, and you have the capacity to learn and develop all of the skills that you'll need to be successful.
And then Dr. Deneau.
What advice? When you look at economics, is basically is just the mother of all the other fields. So economics in the finance, in the marketing. So but we try to, students don't really understand, they're very, connected. So one thing that I can advise students really, because students, I see from my experience that students are not really inclined to major in economics. So what we're pushing at Valdosta State is to double major. So you said, econ and finance very goes hand to hand. So we're trying to students, okay, you're the finance students, and you don't, if you double major in econ, that will open up, two doors when you graduate. So that's maybe great advice for the students when you're entering the field of economics. They can be doing double major. And also what I remember from my undergrad is that I really benefited a lot in working with the faculty. I remember when I was taking the international econ, I had to do a presentation and to the entire class. That make me, specialize in that area. So, and I really loved the international econ. I said, I'm going to do a specialize in that, which I did. So working with a faculty, or just, tapping into their office and talking to them will be greatly benefited to them in their career. And also as an undergrad, I would, maybe it's kind of off topic, but I would really highly advise students to, take all the opportunities, like you studying abroad. It is a great opportunity, opening your, horizon. There's a big world, and it's not only limited to this country, there's a big world out there. So, horizon expand your horizon will be really beneficial. That's what I would recommend.
Thank y'all. If we have any audience questions, please drop them in the chat. And I'm going to hand it over to our PR and marketing chair, Irides, and she's going to take over.
Hello, my name is Erdis. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat below, and I'll read it to our panelists. While we were waiting for people to type it out and stuff, I had a couple of questions to ask. What inspired you to pursue your current career path, and how did economics influence that decision?
What is the question? I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
What inspired you to pursue your current career path, and how did economics influence that decision?
So your current career path and how you get influenced to pursue it. So is it okay?
Yeah, that's it.
Is it for someone specific?
Well, we can start with Anne.
Yeah, I decided to go to law school because I watched a documentary about the financial crisis at 2 a.m. And the documentary was actually recommended by one of my econ economics professors. It's called Inside Job. Highly
Mhm.
recommend. And then I think I've always been interested in the fields of law that intersect with economics. So I think I'm right now I have kind of an offer for general like corporate practice. And so I'll probably end up in like M&A or debt finance, and economics are like hugely relevant in both of those fields. I think I just gravitate more towards fields of law that feel familiar to me. And the ones that feel familiar are the ones that are more intertwined with economics. And there also tends to be a lot of econ majors in those fields, is what I've noticed.
Thank you. As I'm reading the questions, anybody who feels like the most called to can like answer it. You don't have to wait for me to calling you. You can just unmute yourself and answer it. So somebody has put a question in the chat. It says, "What would you recommend for someone who isn't confident in their math skills but wants to be an economics major?"
Um, so if I have to answer, then I would say that how you know that um, your skill is not good. It's probably through your grades, maybe, but it's not exactly how you should judge yourself. So I would say that um, if you think you don't have good math skill, you probably need to deal with more math to understand and see if you are, it's not about the skill, it's about do you enjoy doing math? You know, skill comes with it. If you enjoy doing something, you will be skilled in doing that. If you get scared of seeing number, that's also can be solved by doing it more. That's how I overcome most of my, lackings. I would not say that I already overcome everything, but every single day we face something that we are not very comfortable in doing or not very confident. But can we avoid them all the time? No. So how we overcome? We face it, right? So the suggestion is just, get more exposed to it.
I would also just add, because I feel like I was that student who had those really strong hesitancies, you might also just have to come to terms a little bit with the fact that you might have to work harder at it than the person that sits next to you in class. And that's
Yes.
okay. That doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be sitting in that class, but that might just be the reality of it. And I will also say that if you truly enjoy economics, doing that math will not feel as cumbersome because you're doing it in the context of material that you actually enjoy. So it can be a little bit more of an uphill battle than it is for other people, but it's at the end of the day, hopefully something that you're interested in and passionate about, and you will get there. So
Oh, thank you guys so much for that amazing answer. For our next question, it's for Grace and Anne. They ask, "What are some economics topics that are used a lot in law school?"
I will say there is so much cost benefit analysis that happens in or in legal theory. I've seen it pop up in a number of different contexts, everything down to I was just having this conversation with someone recently about how do you know whether it's even worth it to litigate a case? You have to think about, okay, what are the potential recoveries for that plaintiff if they were successful? Is that going to outweigh all the attorney's fees and everything cost wise that pours into bringing a lawsuit? So sometimes just the very structure of do I even sue or not is the economic concept of cost benefit. But it also informs a lot of legal theories as well.
Yeah, law of economics definitely shows up in a lot of ways. Something that I see a lot is like calculation of economic damages comes up a lot, especially in like property and torts. And then if you're like interested, if you want to find a field where it really is just so much economics, I think you would like antitrust because a big thing that is litigated in antitrust cases is defining a market. And so I remember during my 1L, there was like, it was, I think the Albertsons Fred Meyer merger was going on. And it was a huge like antitrust enforcement case. And I got to talk to the litigator that was working on it. And I just thought it was so interesting to hear like they bring in expert economists to testify and to litigate the idea of what the market is going to be. And then that defines like which way the case is going to go.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I didn't realize there was so much like connection between law school and economics. Really interesting. Uh, thank you guys so much for answering the question. I think that's all the questions we have for today. Is there any last words that you would like to share with us?
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much to our panelists and everyone who joined. I also want to give a shout out for Dr. Wood for bringing all of our panelists together. I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. You have a
Yeah, thank
wonderful
you.
night.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.